cultural demand that's placed on all of us and all of you to maintain those standards. There's a reason people, when you, in this industry, you say Ohio University, everybody knows what you're talking about, and everybody has a similar image. And I don't think, there may be some envy, but I even think people who don't go here recognize there's a sense of pride in being a part of this community and an understanding of what the obligations are of being a member of this community. So to me, it's the tradition and the standards that are consistent from year to year.
They say that being first in any category gives you a competitive advantage. There's a great book out called The 21 Immutable Laws of Marketing, and we were first, but being first doesn't always guarantee success. There was a shoe company out there called Converse that Nike just came by and squashed one day. But if you look at the success of our program, and Dr. Lavery, I'd like to start with you. What were some of the keys in the early days with the building blocks? Was it the interview process? Was it the...
Well, the interview process was developed as we started to grow, because we had so many people, applicants, and we didn't know what to do. So that was the one-on-one interview, even though, like Owen said, was absolutely drudgery sometimes, for not only for the students, but for us, because we went on and on and on, and you kept saying, who is right and who is wrong here? Because we have these young people coming in with a lot of ambition, a lot of courage to sit in front of the three of us and four or five students and get hammered for a half an hour. And it was brutal, I admit, and but that was the only way. But it's, it's hard to explain. It was just that we were willing to change, and we depended on our alums that got out and got into the business to give us feedback. And Owen and I and Chuck, we would get away from Athens for a weekend, and we'd go to a motel, even in Nelsonville, and we'd shut the door, we'd get room service, and we sat there and we planned everything for the year. And we tried to live by that blueprint that we put down. And as we went down, if we saw that it needed to be tweaked, we did it. And we hoped that was right. And if it wasn't right, we went back and tried something else. So we were willing to change. We had to change. If we didn't change, we were going to get killed. We knew that because there were programs sprouting up everywhere, because physical education as a major was dying. So the physical education people in other universities were saying, well, let's just go to sports administration. So they were pumping kids out by the hundreds with no background, no scrutiny. They were just to keep their enrollment up. And I think with us and the interview process and the willingness of us and the students to go through that, I think the interviews, I think that's helped us. And again, Jim, the willingness to make adjustments and change as we went along and not be so focused that we couldn't see the other side.
Oh, and let me build on that question for you, but you guys weren't afraid to get out and hit the road.
No.
To network, to, carry the message, to make new friends that were not Ohio University grads. Could you maybe share with our audience, the value of getting out on the trail and spreading the word?
Okay, just one reflection back on what Jim said for a minute. One of the big changes that affected the program the most, and Jim started this idea, when Dr. Mason started the program, you had to be a physical education major to go into the program. If you did not have that credential, then you had to stay here for a year and take physical education classes, then get into the program as a graduate student. When Jim came, Jim changed that idea, dropped that requirement, and as he said, the three of us started building a program from that. But that was one of the biggest changes, and one of the things that I think helped us the most. Chuck and I used to be a traveling team, go on the road, throw a few parties around the country here and there. Thanks to Dr. Lavery's budget.
Is that what you did?
I just signed Charlie's name, that's all I did. But we would go to Dallas, San Francisco, Las Vegas, Miami.
That was a mistake.
We went a lot of places to meet with prospective club owners, university presidents, athletic directors, to get jobs and internships for our students. It was a very successful program. We met many, many people throughout the country. that became aware of our program just because we gave them a lot of booze and food on the road and made a lot of friends. And they remembered us. And Charlie, I think, in his mental capacities, knows every one of them he's ever met. You mentioned a college or a team, and he knows the president, the general manager, or the athletic director, and the students that he sent to that college or that business or that program. But it sold the name of Ohio University in sports administration. As Jim said, we were the first ones. Jim Mason, when he met with Mulder O'Malley in Vero Beach, we were teaching together at the University of Miami. When he came here, he decided that's what he wanted to do. That's why he came to Ohio University, to get that program started. And when he did this by himself, with no help from any other people on campus, he devised a program and went to the provost and sold him the idea, went to the faculty senate and sold them, and Vern Alden, who was the president at that time, was very sports-minded. He would go down to a track meet and shake hands of every OU student who crossed first. He was an athletic nut. Anyway, they backed the program 100% and gave Jim Mason the ability to put this program together. But his background was physical education, and he was narrow-minded about that. And one of the reasons he left was he could not change his ways. And he left, and we hired Jim, and it went from there. But Jim was the best thing with this program. He was not narrow. He came from an athletic background, and he saw the future of this by expanding and dropping the rigid requirements of physical education. But the road trips were fantastic, meeting a lot of people, and I almost became an alcoholic because almost, Charlie, almost.
I didn't get those bills.
Doc,
It was a full-time job on my part to keep going in line on these trips.
Doc, when you think of building the foundation of what we have today, the Alumni Directory is really a signature statement for the program. But would you share with the current students and some of our alums some of your thoughts as the Alumni Directory started to build and its evolution and where it is today?
Well, you have certain ideas, and some of them really click, and some of them don't. But Lou Valenick was my grad assistant that year, and he and I were just sitting around talking about something, and our alumni, in a way, there wasn't that many of them, but had become fragmented. You know, they didn't have that really, the loyalty back to the program. So Lou and I had a couple lists of names and where people were located. And he and I started talking, and we thought it'd be a good idea just to accumulate all the names in an orderly fashion and the profession they're in and the sport that they represent. And then we got permission for Lou to go up to the college, the graduate college, and have access to the files. And Lou is the one that went out and spent a better part of a year, that 9 months he was here, putting together the first Alumni Directory. It was that little, I've showed this to many of you, it was that little green pamphlet, and we sent that out to the alumni, and we asked for $1, you know, just to kind of defray the cost. Well, Jim and I getting dollar bills forever, I think. But from that, a couple years later, that Tom Light was a young man that came in the summertime along with Dallas Branch, and Tom had the idea of selling advertising. And we presented it to Jim, and the thing I really appreciated about Jim is he presented a new idea. I'm not saying he was behind every idea there was, but there wasn't many that he wasn't behind. And his attitude was, okay, let's try it. Well, Tom Lipe had the idea of selling advertising, and he kind of had it laid out. Well, he left in September and had an internship over in the East at a little college, came back in January. And if you want to talk about a student being irate, we hadn't done anything the time Tom left until he got back, and he was irate about, well, you haven't done anything. Well, between he and Dallas Branch, they put the idea, they laid it out. Dallas was on the phone selling advertising, and I'll tell you one thing about Dallas, he could sell